Hey, Frontline fans, welcome back to Comic Frontline. And fans, you're with me, Mike Spiderslayer, getting ready to do another TV review. And today, fans, we're going to be talking about The Strain, episode 12, otherwise known as Last Rites. And it's one episode away from the season finale. And let me just tell you, fans, I've really enjoyed this show. More and more each and every episode. This episode was a great setup to which is going to be again next week, the season finale. Yeah, what can I say? This episode basically starts off with Dutch. She's coming back into the show, and she has this grand master plan to wind up hacking into the emergency broadcast system and to let everybody know out there in the United States that, hey, this vampire plague is coming into play, in case people didn't know what was going on anyway. And so she wanted to get F, who is obviously the man in charge of the CDC, or the one who works for the CDC, she wants him to broadcast to the United States and let the world know what's going on. Also, we get to see Mr. Palmer, the old man that's been dying of liver failure. Looks like he was on the way out, but he's in high hopes of getting the Master to grant him this immortality, because he's done everything that the Master wanted him to do in getting this whole vampire plague into play. And Mr. Anchorus, the German guy, sits there and says, well, we'll see. He might not do it. So you're kind of left hanging there at the beginning of the episode of what happens. Also in this episode, you wind up going into more of a back history in 1967, I think, to be exact. And this had to do with Mr. Strankian, which is Abraham. He's now past the concentration camps. You get to learn that he has a wife. They want to adopt a couple of kids, but he spent his life so far studying about this whole vampire thing, and he wants to go after them. And his wife says, you gotta come back, and he makes that promise. So you get to see way back in the 60s him going after Mr. Anchorus. So that was pretty neat there. And that's what I really like about this story about The Strain. I like seeing all the back history on how these two came to be. And I think the characters that really shine in this show overall is Abraham and, Thomas Anchorus, who's the German again. And I think they're phenomenal in this show. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect from the old man, but he's grown on me as the episodes has gone along. But the creepy German Nazi guy, he's super creepy, and so they've really stood out for me in this first season here of the show. Another character that stood out for me in this episode too was Dutch. She really had a chance to shine in this episode, and she really did. You really got to see her skills, and you really got to see her go out and wanting to do good, and I thought that was great. And then you get to see, the chemistry with her and Vasily on how they work together. So I really like that about the episode as well. Also in this episode, you get to see Gus, who goes to one of his persons that he did business with, and he's trying to get weapons and money and things like that. And we find out that there's this other plot that's going on getting these vampires to the States. And yes, they are actually being shipped here. So that was another thing too. But you get to see the return of these like vampire hunters. They look just like the Strain creatures, but they talk and they're killing these vampires. So I don't know what to think of these guys. It's only the second time you've seen of them, and you've seen for like maybe a total of 30 seconds here. So this has me really intrigued on what's going to happen in the future with these particular creatures. Also in this episode, you get to see finally, and I hate to say it, but you finally get to see the death of Nora's mother in this episode. And she winds up getting attacked by vampires as the German breaks in with his vampire cronies to the pawn shop. And you really get to see what happens there on what happens with Nora's mom, and how Nora has to actually kill her own mother. But, you know, she had to go. There's no way with a woman that has Alzheimer's disease that can keep up with this type of group to try to survive against this vampire apocalypse or zombie pyre apocalypse, whatever the heck you want to call it. And at the end of this episode, at the very end, you get to see what happens to Abraham's wife. And it was kind of sad because you feel for the guy. He's been in such this long journey, and you can see why he's in so much pain, and he's been fighting this for so many years. And this episode really reveals that here. And you get to find out what that heart really means to him. And at the end, you get to see Mr. Palmer see and come across the Master, and the Master grants him something that he's been waiting for all this time. Now, is it immortality? It doesn't look like it. He doesn't give him one of the worms. He actually drips some of his blood into him. So it looks like he gives him health. Because at the end of the episode, you see him laughing. He goes outside the building, and he has the rain hitting him for the first time in years, because the man could not go outside because he would risk possibly getting a disease and infection or something like that and die. And then after that, that's where you see the end of the episode, and then we're going to lead on to episode 13, which is the season finale. Again, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. I love seeing the back history between, you know, some of these main characters and how they got to the point that they are. I thought Dutch finally had a good episode where it really showcased her abilities, what she could do. And it'll be interesting to see who these vampires are, these vampire hunters are, if F's message actually got to the United States, if people are taking him seriously. And yeah, and once this season's over, I want to see really in season 2 how they're going to prolong the show and how it actually continues. And yeah, so this was one of my favorite episodes to date. I really enjoyed this one. And there were some creepy elements in here as too. There was this scary vampire woman as you get to see younger Abraham go through the tunnels, and he's about to attack this vampire, and it starts saying, "The sun is setting, Professor." And it's sitting in this creepy voice, and you're like, ooh, that's kind of creepy. So it did have those kind of that horrific feel in there too as well. So yeah, really good episode, guys. I'm giving this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Actually, tell me what your thoughts are on this episode, and are you looking forward to the season finale of The Strain? So guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Frontline, and until the next comic book review or TV review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, fans. See you soon.